Silas sat in his office, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. His mind constantly churned over the future of his business, the legacy he was desperately trying to preserve. The thought of it failing, of his life's work crumbling, was unbearable. But August, his dedicated manager who had been with him for years, noticed the somber look on his boss's face and approached cautiously. "Silas, maybe we should consider some promotions or even host an event to attract more customers," suggested August, trying to inject some optimism into the conversation. "We need to try something new." Silas glanced at him, recognizing the good intentions behind the suggestion. "August, I appreciate your initiative," he said, his voice laced with a mixture of exhaustion and frustration. "But you're just a manager. You don't fully understand the business side of things, and I won't put my market in the hands of your suggestion. Besides, that's not your job. Just focus on what I pay you to do." "Still, thank you." Silas wasn't known for his kindness, but the mounting pressure from the business had made him even more distant and harsh. The day dragged on, filled with a palpable tension between hope for recovery and the undeniable reality of their financial struggles. "If it fails, it's my legacy that gets tarnished. My management. I can't let this end," Silas thought to himself, the determination to fight still flickering in his mind. When night fell, and the market doors closed, Silas remained inside, surrounded by piles of accounts and the eerie silence of an empty store. It was in these quiet moments that the weight of his isolation became even more pronounced. Yet, amidst the solitude, a spark of resolve reignited. "There will be a way out," he murmured, his voice barely audible. "I just need to find it. At least my ex-wife and that kid aren't bothering me anymore. That makes things a bit easier." A few blocks away, on a busy street, Gianna and her son, Luca, were facing a starkly different reality. Their modest apartment, usually full of laughter and conversations, had fallen silent. Gianna, a dedicated cleaner, was struggling to make ends meet. The pantry, once stocked with food, now echoed emptiness, a constant reminder of their mounting hardships. Sitting at the kitchen table with Luca, Gianna tried to keep up the appearance of normalcy, but the worry on her face was hard to hide. "Luca, I want you to know that we are in this together, okay? I'll figure everything out, I promise," she said, her voice filled with more conviction than she felt. Luca, wise beyond his 9 years, looked up at his mother with understanding. "Mommy, I know we are going through tough times, but I'm here with you. We don't need anything from Dad if he doesn't want to help," he said, offering a tight hug that brought some comfort to Gianna's troubled heart. That innocent, unwavering support was a refuge for Gianna in these hard times. But deep inside, she knew things were becoming unsustainable. The absence of child support promised by Silas only made their situation worse. "I never wanted to depend on that man," Gianna thought bitterly. "But the bills keep piling up, and money is getting tighter." She wrestled with the idea of swallowing her pride for Luca's sake. After a moment's hesitation, she picked up the phone and dialed Silas's number. The first ring stretched on, followed by another, but the call went unanswered. She tried again, but the phone remained silent, leaving her with the cold emptiness of voicemail. "Silas, it's me, Gianna. We need to talk about Luca's support. Please call me back when you can." She left a message, her voice strained. After hanging up, she turned to Luca, who was watching her with hopeful eyes. "It's all right, my love. We'll figure it out," she said, offering a smile that barely concealed the growing anxiety within her. She hugged Luca tightly, her heart heavy with worry about what might happen if Silas continued to ignore her pleas. That night, while Luca slept soundly, protected by the innocence of childhood, Gianna lay awake, staring at the dark ceiling. The failed attempt to contact Silas replayed in her mind over and over, a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions that she couldn't escape. What if Silas doesn't return the call? How will I keep the lights on? How will I fill the pantry? The questions echoed loudly in her mind, each one growing more urgent. But beneath it all, the promise she had made to herself was clear: no matter what happened, she would find a way to ensure Luca never went without. At dawn, As the first rays of sunlight filtered through the faded curtains of her apartment, Gianna's sleepless night gave way to a morning filled with resolve. As she prepared breakfast, she forced herself to appear more cheerful than she felt, a skill she had perfected over the months. Luca, sitting at the table, noticed the change in his mother's demeanor. "Mommy, are you going to the market today? It's been a long time since you've been there." "I'd like to go with you," he said, hoping for sweets or maybe a toy. "Yes, my love, I am going, but I'll just buy a few things we need," she replied, her voice soft, trying to hide the urgency of the situation. "I'm going to Daddy's market, but I won't talk to him. Please stay home. I'll be back soon," she added, avoiding Luca's questioning gaze. The purpose of the visit was far more pressing than just shopping. She had to confront Silas today. As she walked toward the market, Gianna's mind raced. She rehearsed what she would say, bracing herself for the confrontation she knew was coming. When she arrived at the market, she noticed it was quieter than usual. Fewer customers and even fewer employees were present. She searched for Silas, but instead, she found August, who was organizing some boxes near the entrance. Taking a deep breath, Gianna approached him, her voice firm but tense. "Excuse me, could you call Silas? I need to speak with him." August hesitated. He could sense the seriousness in Gianna's voice and knew that conflicts were never easy to handle when it came to Silas. He avoided these situations as much as possible. "Miss, I don't know if now is the best time," August began, but when he saw the determined look in Gianna's eyes, he sighed and relented. "Well, since you insist, I'll call him." August walked away, leaving Gianna alone with her thoughts. Her mind raced as she wondered how Silas would respond, whether he would finally take responsibility or come up with another excuse to avoid her. As she waited, Gianna's gaze wandered over the partially empty shelves of the market. It was a clear sign of the financial difficulties Silas was facing. She wondered if that would make him more understanding or just harden his heart even further. Meanwhile, August found Silas in the office, flipping through some bills. "Silas, there's a young lady here. She says she wants to talk to you," he said cautiously. Silas glanced at the cameras on his computer, saw Gianna, and immediately frowned. His expression hardened, and he replied coldly without even looking up from the bills. "August, tell her I'm busy. Better yet, tell her to go away." August returned to Gianna, his footsteps slow and reluctant as he prepared to deliver the message. "Miss Silas said he's busy. He asked you to leave? I think it might be better to come back another time," he said, avoiding her gaze. Gianna's anger flared. "No, I will not leave. I need to talk to him. It's an urgent matter. He needs to understand. He needs to be more responsible, and I won't leave without speaking to him," she said, her voice rising more than she had intended. "By the way, I have a name, and it is Gianna." August, sensing that the situation was about to escalate, sighed deeply. "Gianna, my name is August, and I'm the manager here. If you don't leave, I'll have to call the police," he said reluctantly, his words carrying the weight of an official threat. "I just want to talk to him, August. That's all I ask," Gianna replied, her voice trembling, not from fear, but from the indignation she felt at having to fight so hard just to ensure her son's future. August, torn between his duty to the market and his empathy for Gianna, felt the weight of the dilemma. "I understand, Gianna. But if Silas doesn't want to talk, I don't know what I can do," he said, his voice filled with genuine apprehension. The tension in the air grew as customers began to notice the standoff, their curious glances adding to the already charged atmosphere. Gianna stood her ground, aware of the growing whispers from the people around her, including August, who exchanged quiet words about the unfolding situation. She could feel the weight of the stares directed her way, but she remained focused. Her priority, as always, was Luca. She had to be strong for him, no matter what. The looming threat of being forced to leave with police intervention was real, and it served as a stark reminder of the limited choices she had. "I don't want to cause a scene, August, but you have to understand. I am doing this for my son," Gianna explained, her voice low but firm. The mention of Luca reminded her of the reason she was there, despite Silas's threats and the shame she might face. She was determined to see this through. August, while understanding Gianna's reasons, was confused by her mention of her son and what that had to do with the situation. He felt powerless to change the course of events. "I'm sorry, Gianna. I really am. I'll try to talk to Silas again, but I can't promise anything," he said, his voice carrying a mix of sympathy and helplessness as he turned to make one last attempt to mediate. Gianna remained steadfast, a figure of resistance in the midst of her emotional turmoil. The thought of leaving without the answers she so desperately sought saddened her, but her love for Luca gave her the strength to keep going. This was not a battle fought out of pride or vengeance, but for the well-being of her son. August, his heart heavy with the situation, walked back to Silas, determined to make one final appeal. "Silas, please just talk to Gianna. She is worried about her son Luca. Can't we resolve this in a civilized way?" he pleaded, hoping to awaken some semblance of conscience in his boss. However, Silas remained unmoved, his expression as cold as stone. "I've already told you, August. I won't talk to her. If she doesn't want to leave, I'll handle it myself," Silas replied, picking up the phone with a finality in his voice. He dialed the police number, reporting a disturbance at the establishment. August stood by, despondent, knowing that things were only going to escalate. Gianna, anxiously waiting, saw August approaching again, but before he could speak, the sound of sirens broke through the air. The police arrived quickly, and 2 officers entered the market. Silas, stepping from behind the counter, pointed directly at Gianna. "She's the one causing trouble. I asked her to leave, and she refused," Silas told the officers, his voice thick with feigned authority. Gianna, feeling the officers' approach, was filled with a mix of fear and disbelief. "I just wanted to talk to him about our son's support. I wasn't causing any trouble," she tried to explain, her voice shaky but desperate to be heard. "Ma'am, we received a call about a disturbance here. The owner asked you to leave, and you refused. That's enough reason for an arrest for contempt," one of the officers explained, his tone matter-of-fact, leaving no room for negotiation. "But you don't understand. I'm just trying to resolve a situation. It's the welfare of my son that's at stake, and I need to resolve this so he doesn't go hungry," Gianna insisted, pointing to Silas. Her voice rose in desperation, but the officer's response was cold. "Ma'am, please calm down. You are in a place where you shouldn't be. If you continue resisting, we will have to take you to the station, and there, we will decide what to do with you," the other officer warned, his patience clearly wearing thin. With procedure being followed, the officers handcuffed Gianna and led her out of the market. Her pleas echoed through the establishment, but they were quickly drowned out by the harsh reality of her situation. Silas returned to his post behind the counter, while August stood by, contemplating the distorted sense of justice he had just witnessed. As Gianna was placed in the police car, her heart was filled not with worry for herself, but for Luca. What would happen to him now? Tears welled up in her eyes as the overwhelming feeling of injustice consumed her. August, still inside the market, felt a wave of guilt wash over him. "There should have been another way to handle this, Silas. How could you?" he muttered quietly to himself, knowing that Silas wouldn't care to hear or heed his words. Silas, watching as Gianna was taken away, turned to August with a mix of satisfaction and relief. "This will maintain order here, August. We need discipline, not drama," Silas declared, putting a final stamp on the situation as though it were a minor inconvenience. August, uncomfortable with Silas's harsh decision, found himself torn between loyalty to his boss and the deep, nagging feeling that something had gone terribly wrong. "I understand, Silas. I hope this doesn't lead to more problems," he replied, his voice betraying his internal conflict. After the incident, the market returned to its usual routine, but the atmosphere was undeniably heavier. August struggled to focus on his work, his thoughts repeatedly drifting back to the woman who had been taken away by the police and the impact this would have on her life, and that of her son, Luca, whom he knew so little about. Meanwhile, in the modest apartment, Luca sat anxiously, waiting for his mother's return. The hours dragged on, and as night fell, he began to grow increasingly concerned. Mom said she was going to the market, Luca thought to himself, trying to make sense of his mother's prolonged absence. As the hours passed, Luca's concern deepened. He felt that something was wrong. Driven by a courage that only children possess, Luca decided he would go to the market to look for his mother. Before leaving, he grabbed a photo of Gianna, the one that always sat on the living room shelf showing her smiling. If I meet anyone there, I'll show them this photo. My mom is beautiful. There's no way to confuse her with any other woman, Luca thought, holding the photo tightly, as if it were a talisman of hope. The path to the market was familiar to Luca. He had walked it many times with his mother. Now, determination guided him through the streets, each step bringing him closer to the answers he so desperately sought. I need to find her. I am my mom's hero, and she is my heroine. My dad won't do anything bad to her, he thought, with a resolve that only a child with deep love for his mother could possess. Upon arriving at the market, Luca found it closed. No lights, no activity, just a locked door signaling the end of the day. His heart sank. Not knowing what else to do, he sat down near a pile of boxes and trash bags at the back of the market, deciding to wait until dawn, hoping someone might give him news about his mother. The cold of the night set in, but Luca, though shivering, remained determined. The photo of his mother was clutched tightly in his small hands. His image, huddled beside the trash with the photo of his mother secure in his grip, painted a stark portrayal of the bleak situation they were in, one of a child driven by love and concern, facing the harshness of the world in search of his missing mother. Before the first rays of sunlight bathed the streets with light, August arrived at the market to begin another day of work. The cool morning air carried with it the usual silence of the early hours, a stark contrast to the bustle that would soon take over the city. But as he approached the back entrance, something unexpected caught his eye. There, beside a pile of boxes and trash bags, was Luca, a glimpse of vulnerability and hope in his sleepy eyes. Surprised to find the boy in such a situation, August approached cautiously, his heart tightening at the sight before him. Hey, little one! What are you doing here so early and you're alone? Where is your mommy? August asked, his voice gentle, trying not to alarm Luca. Luca, now fully awake, looked up with a mix of relief and anxiety. With trembling hands, he extended the photo of his mother to August. I'm looking for my mom. She came here yesterday and didn't come back home, Luca explained, his voice barely a whisper, full of concern. August felt a wave of emotion wash over him as he looked at the photo of Gianna. The memory of the previous day, with the police taking Gianna away, and the now palpable agony of Luca brought him a devastating clarity about the seriousness of the situation. I know what happened to your mom, August began, choosing his words carefully to avoid overwhelming the already distressed boy. She had a problem here yesterday, but I promise we will sort this out. I'll help you find your mom, he assured Luca, his voice firm with determination. Without hesitation, August made a decision that would change the course of the day. He guided Luca to his car, leaving the still-closed market behind. His priority now was to help Luca reunite with Gianna, unconcerned with the consequences Silas would bring when he found out. As he drove toward the police station, August's phone began to ring. It was Silas, clearly irritated and confused by the unexpected situation at the market. August, what's happening? A customer just called complaining that the market is closed. Do you know what time it is? Silas's voice came through, full of frustration. August, keeping his calm, quickly responded with an improvised excuse. Silas, I had an emergency here. I'm handling it now. Don't worry, I'll take care of everything as soon as possible, he said, his voice steady despite Luca's worried gaze following the conversation. Upon arriving at the police station, August felt the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. With Luca by his side, he approached the counter, where a police officer watched them curiously. August inquired about Gianna, mentioning that he had important information regarding her situation. Yes, she's here. She was detained yesterday for contempt, the officer replied, confirming their worst fears. The officer, sizing up August and the small Luca beside him, gave a sharp glance before responding. What do you want to know about her? But I should tell you that sensitive information is only provided to family members, he said, observing the urgency and seriousness in August's gaze. August took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts before explaining the situation. He knew the day ahead would be long and difficult, but the image of Luca, sleeping next to the trash, clutching his mother's photo, strengthened his resolve. He had to do everything in his power to help Gianna and Luca. Meanwhile, Silas, after hanging up the phone with August, found himself alone in front of the still-closed market. With a heavy sigh, he reached into his pocket, pulling out the keys, and opened the doors. He prepared for another day of work, this time without his manager's help. The store, which usually buzzed with the hum of customers making their morning purchases, was oddly quiet, echoing the absence of August and the weight of the decisions made the day before. As Silas walked through the semi-empty aisles, he couldn't help but notice the irony of the situation. Here he was, the market owner, opening his own store, something he hadn't done in years due to relying on his staff. Maybe August isn't as indispensable as I thought, Silas muttered to himself, trying to convince himself that the absence of one employee wouldn't affect the operation of the market. As the hours passed, the sparse movement in the market reflected the precarious state of the business. Silas found himself behind the cash register, a position he rarely occupied, watching the occasional customer enter. The lack of movement only served to deepen his reflections on the market's future. Maybe it's time to give up, sell this place, and leave this ridiculous town. I don't need this. I already have money, Silas thought to himself, considering the possibility of letting go of the business that had been his life until now. The idea of selling the market, though painful, seemed increasingly viable in the face of growing financial difficulties. However, as the day wore on, Silas's irritation with August's absence began to dissipate. The realization that he could manage the market alone, even for a day, brought him a mixed feeling of self-confidence and resentment. In the end, it seems I'm not missing anyone but myself, Silas reflected, his mind oscillating between satisfaction in his newfound independence and concern for the uncertain future of his market. Back at the police station, August, with Luca by his side, reported the events that had led to Gianna's detention. Luca, though young, collaborated with his innocent observation of the facts. His small voice was filled with conviction about the injustice done to his mother. The officers, listening attentively, began to understand the complexity of the situation. Gianna's story, complemented by Luca's testimony and August's intervention, shed new light on the case. We will investigate the issue of child support, one of the officers announced after a brief discussion among them. The failure to pay is a serious violation, and if Silas is not fulfilling his obligations, he will have to answer for it. After a few hours of tense waiting, Gianna was finally released. Upon seeing Luca, she ran to embrace him, holding him as if she would never let go. August watched the reunion between mother and son, feeling a wave of relief and satisfaction for having played a part in their reunification. He approached Gianna, ready to discuss the next steps. We're in this together, he said, his voice low, aware that there was still much to resolve. Although their conversation was not revealed in detail, it was clear that August was committed to helping Gianna and Luca overcome the difficulties they faced. Gianna, August, and Luca found a brief moment of tranquility in the small park next to the police station, a serene space contrasting with the tension of the events that had unfolded. While Luca played a short distance away, Gianna and August shared a bench under the welcoming shade of an old tree, allowing their conversation to flow more freely after the emotional storm at the station. Gianna, I need to tell you about the market situation, August began, hesitation evident in his voice, reflecting the gravity of what he was about to share. Silas, from what he told me, is facing bankruptcy. The news took Gianna by surprise, and her face darkened with worry and curiosity. Is he not paying Luca's child support because he is out of money? she asked, confusion evident on her face. She had mentioned earlier at the station that the payments had been delayed for several months, each period weighing on her heart like a broken promise. Actually, money isn't the main issue right now, August explained, his gaze briefly shifting to Luca, as if reinforcing the importance of his next words. Silas still has enough resources to catch up on the child support if he really wanted to. Gianna processed this revelation, a mix of relief and sadness intertwining within her. She realized that the situation could have been different if there had been more will between the two of them. The truth was, Silas's failure to pay was less about financial inability and more about other motivations, perhaps intentional negligence. Moved by a genuine impulse, August apologized to Gianna. "I'm so sorry for everything that happened. I know my actions led to your arrest, and I could never forgive myself for that," he said, sincerity and regret evident in his voice. Gianna, recognizing August's honesty and vulnerability, smiled softly. "I know you did what you thought was right at the time, and you came to help me when I needed it most." "You're forgiven, August," she replied, her smile bringing a sense of peace and closure to that chapter of their lives. At that moment of complicity, August's phone rang, breaking the brief calm. It was Silas, his voice carrying a tone of resignation that August had never heard before. "August, I've decided I'm going to sell the market. There's no other way. After the police showed up, the suspicions only made things worse. People don't want to shop here anymore," Silas confessed, his final decision sounding like a sigh of defeat. August, processing the news, shared it with Gianna, watching her closely for her reaction. "Silas is going to sell the market. He thinks there's no way to turn the situation around now," he said, his gaze meeting Gianna's, searching for any sign of how to proceed. The revelation about the fate of the market left Gianna thoughtful. The impact of this decision would ripple beyond Silas, affecting the community that depended on the market as a gathering place for shopping and trading. "August, many people in the surrounding neighborhoods depend on that market. Even if business is slow, it's the closest place for many to shop. The community relies on it," Gianna said, her concern evident. August, sitting next to Gianna in the park, wore a thoughtful expression as if he were weaving complex plans in his mind. The news of the unexpected sale of the market had impacted him more than he cared to admit. "The market can't close," he said more to himself than to Gianna, his voice laden with newfound determination. Gianna, noticing the change in August's tone, leaned in slightly, curious. "What are you thinking of doing, August? You can share whatever it is with me," she asked, hopeful for a spark of hope amidst the whirlwind of uncertainties. August hesitated, his eyes wandering around the park as if searching for the right words in the surroundings. "I have a plan. I can't reveal the details yet, but trust me, Gianna, my mind is already working on something that might change things for the better," he confessed, offering her a look that brimmed with sincerity and determination. Before they left the park, August drove Gianna and Luca home. After dropping them off, he headed to his own residence, driven by a sense of purpose that seemed to guide him through each action. There, he went straight to where he kept his savings, a sum he had been accumulating with discipline and sacrifices over the years. Picking up the money, he felt the weight of each note, not just physically, but emotionally. Each one represented a step toward the future he wished to build. Back at the market, with the severance money in mind, August found Silas buried in a pile of documents that symbolized the end of an era for the market. "Silas, we need to settle my accounts. I've decided to take a new path," August announced, his voice filled with newfound confidence. Silas, surprised by August's sudden decision but also relieved to resolve another pending issue before his departure, provided the settlement without hesitation. "Money isn't the issue, August. Anyway, I'm closing this chapter and starting a new one in a big city. I'm leaving this hole behind," Silas declared, a note of bitterness permeating his words as he executed the payment. With the money in hand, August discreetly counted the amount, adding it to his savings. As he focused on this task, Silas took the opportunity to vent about Gianna and Luca, unaware that their situation had changed. Gianna, always thinking she can get more from me, and the boy. Well, I hope he doesn't follow in his mother's footsteps, who, as far as I know. Silas spoke, his voice casting disdain and resentment into the air. Remains locked up, he muttered bitterly. August, focused on his accounts, chose to ignore Silas's venomous words. He knew that arguing or expressing his disagreement at that moment would lead nowhere. His plan required calm focus and, above all, action, not empty words. As Silas continued to express his disdain for Gianna and Luca, August finished counting the total amount in his hands. The money represented more than just the sum of his work at the market. It symbolized the seed of new hope, an investment not only in his own future but in the future of the community that both the market and its people served. Holding the money firmly, August looked up and met Silas's eyes, interrupting the latter's flow of disdain with a seriousness he rarely showed. "Silas, stop for a moment," August said, his voice laden with the decision he was making. With a decisive movement, August extended the money back to Silas, adding his own savings to the sum. "I want to buy the market," he revealed, his words dropping into the silence between them like stones in a tranquil lake. Silas, caught off guard by August's audacity, took the money with a mix of incredulity and suspicion. He counted the amount carefully, each note passing through his fingers as he assessed the unexpected proposal. Upon verifying that the value was sufficient, his gaze narrowed, a silent evaluation of the man standing before him. "Why would you do this?" Silas asked, trying to probe the motivations behind such a gesture. August, maintaining his calm composure, shared his motivations without mentioning Gianna or Luca, emphasizing his desire to preserve a central point for the community and to give the market new life. "My passion for the well-being of this town and my belief in the importance of this market are what have kept me standing after all these years," August explained. The conversation that followed dealt with the details of the sale, a tense but necessary negotiation that ultimately ended with the transfer of the market's ownership to August. Silas, still wary of August's sudden change of direction, recognized the value of the deal for both parties. As they finalized the sale, Silas revealed his plan to leave the town the next day, eager to shed the ties that bound him to the place. However, August, driven by a need to buy time for the investigation into Luca's child support, made one last request as a courtesy. "Silas, could you stay until the start of next week? I'd like you to see the market's reopening," he said, concealing his true motives under the guise of a cordial invitation. Silas, surprisingly, agreed to stay a little longer, perhaps moved by curiosity or a remnant of interest in the fate of the market under August's new leadership. "Okay, August, I'll stay, but I want a good reopening. I was the former owner of this market, and everyone knows it, so I want my legacy to be continued by a responsible person," Silas declared. That week, August plunged into preparations for the reopening of the market, now renamed Community Market. He wanted the new name to reflect the spirit of unity and belonging he wished to infuse into the space. He announced the change of ownership with enthusiasm, spreading the news throughout the town. Painters were hired to give the facade a fresh look, choosing bright colors to symbolize a new beginning. Amid the preparations, August did not forget about Gianna and Luca. One afternoon, he visited their home, carrying a basic basket full of essentials from the market. As he handed it over, August took the opportunity to share his actions and motivations. "I bought the market, Gianna. I want it to be a place that benefits our entire community, a gathering spot where everyone feels welcome," he explained, his enthusiasm evident. Gianna, listening attentively, couldn't help but feel impressed and grateful for August's initiative. "This is incredible, August. I don't even know how to thank you for everything you've done for me and what you're doing for the community," she said, her gaze filled with admiration and a sparkle of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. As they talked, a deeper connection began to form between the two. August's generosity and determination touched Gianna's heart, while her strength and resilience inspired him. "I also stopped by the police station this week," August continued. "The investigation about the child support is moving forward, and I convinced Silas to stay a bit longer." That will give the police more time, he shared, revealing part of his plan to ensure justice for Gianna and Luca. Gianna smiled, touched by August's concern, not just for her and Luca's well-being, but also for the future of the community. You really are making a difference, August. Luca and I are with you in this, she affirmed, sealing an even greater partnership between them based on mutual respect and the promise of a better future. August's visit, though brief, left a positive mark on Gianna and Luca. As he said goodbye, promising to keep them updated on developments, Gianna watched him leave, feeling a mix of gratitude and admiration for his role in their lives. August left, feeling that he was on the right path, motivated by the strength of their new alliance. The day before the reopening, on a Sunday, August walked through the freshly arranged shelves of the community market, carefully adjusting each item. In the quiet of the empty market, he paused for a moment, allowing his thoughts to form into silent words. What I'm feeling for Gianna, could it be passion? He wondered, his heart quickening with the possibility. And if she doesn't feel the same, would it be too crazy to ask her out tomorrow, in front of everyone? The idea was as terrifying as it was exciting, a leap into the unknown. He hesitated to take the step. Meanwhile, in the tranquility of her home, Gianna reflected on the recent changes in her life, with August occupying a prominent place in her thoughts. August has done so much for us. His determination to help the community, to support us, I admire that so much in him, she thought, a gentle smile forming on her lips. The idea of passion did not cross her mind, but the admiration and respect she felt for August were undeniable, feelings that grew with each passing day. The day of the reopening of the community market dawned clear and promising. August was there early, ensuring that every detail was perfect. As people began to arrive, the anticipation within him grew. I hope everything goes well, he thought, watching the community members gather with curious and excited expressions. Gianna and Luca arrived together, Gianna holding Luca's hand firmly as they entered. They were warmly greeted by August, who could not hide the joy in his eyes. You came, he said to Gianna, his voice laden with emotion. I wouldn't miss it for anything, Gianna replied, smiling warmly. From a distance, Silas watched, clearly surprised by the presence of Gianna and Luca. She got out of jail. How did that happen? He murmured to himself, incredulous. The evident alliance between Gianna, Luca, and August left him visibly uncomfortable, disoriented, as the inauguration ceremony began. August took the microphone to speak. Today is not just the opening of a market. It's the beginning of a new era for our community, where each of you is an essential part. I want to especially thank Gianna, whose strength and courage have inspired not just me, but all of us, said August, casting a meaningful glance at Gianna, who blushed slightly when mentioned. The market was packed with far more people than August had dared to hope for. The buzz of excited voices filled the air, signaling the success of the event. Amid the celebration, August found a moment of quiet alongside Gianna. Gianna, since meeting you, my life has changed completely. You inspired me to be a better person, to fight for our community. I've fallen in love with you, August declared, his heart racing as he held her hands. I was wondering if you would be my girlfriend. Gianna, moved and surprised, looked into August's eyes. August, you brought light into our darkest days. I could never have imagined finding someone like you. Yes, I accept, she responded, her eyes glistening with tears of happiness. The declaration was met with warm applause from the community, who celebrated not only the reopening of the market but also the blossoming of a new love. However, the celebration was suddenly interrupted by the arrival of the police. The officers headed straight to Silas, who looked around in confusion. Silas, you are being arrested for failing to pay child support to your son Luca, despite numerous claims by your ex-wife, and for attempting to deceive the police with bad faith accusations to detain Ms. Gianna, announced one of the officers as they handcuffed a stunned Silas. Silas's arrest, amid the inauguration, dramatically sealed the shift in life's course for everyone present. As he was taken away by the police, the community grew even closer, solidifying the community market not just as a commercial establishment, but as the true beating heart of the neighborhood. That day, August, Gianna, and Luca saw not only the fulfillment of a dream but also the beginning of a new journey together, filled with love, hope, and a renewed commitment to building a better future for all. The market reopened and began to fill with people. Everyone knew that Silas, who had become known lately for his rudeness to employees and customers, and now for his irresponsibility as a father, was no longer in charge of the market. Instead, it was a man with a kind heart, and this motivated both old and new customers to shop there. In the days following the reopening, life in the small town began to transform. The market became a true meeting point for residents, a place where not only groceries were bought but also stories were shared, and bonds were strengthened. August, with Gianna by his side, dedicated each day to ensuring that the market served its new mission well, while nurturing the love that had united them so unexpectedly. Gianna, now more involved than ever with the market, found joy in working alongside August. Their relationship flourished, based on mutual admiration and a shared commitment to the community. Luca, too, adapted to the new life, helping at the market after school and on weekends, proud of the role his family played in the heart of the town. Silas, after his arrest, was also forced to pay all the back child support he owed to Gianna, money which she later donated to single mothers in need of assistance. Silas's presence was missed by no one, a result of all the years he spent avoiding cultivating friendships and building a family. The transformation of the market under August's management did not go unnoticed. The place not only thrived but also helped to revitalize the surrounding area, bringing in new businesses and new opportunities for the residents. The community market became a model of how conscious entrepreneurship, focused on collective well-being, could bring about significant changes. On a sunny Saturday afternoon, the community market was especially busy. August and Gianna, working side by side, organized a small celebration to mark the market's success since its reopening. As they adjusted the last details, they shared a moment of complicity. "Do you believe we've come this far, Gianna?" August asked, looking around at the vibrant market. "You know, I've never been so sure of a decision. I'm very happy about all that we've been through because although it wasn't easy, it was a lesson for everyone about overcoming injustice." Gianna smiled, holding his hand. "It's incredible, August. All of this is proof that when people unite for a good reason, they can really make a difference. You've made a huge difference in my life. And together, we've made a difference in the lives of many." As they talked, a regular customer approached, gently interrupting. "Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say that this place, what you've done here, has changed the neighborhood for the better. All of us feel it in a very positive way, and I want to thank you for that. Thank you for taking that man out of his and doing good." Grateful, August and Gianna exchanged glances, feeling the importance of that acknowledgement. "Thank you. That means a lot to us. This market is for everyone, by everyone," August replied, while Gianna nodded, smiling. The community market, with its doors open to everyone, represented more than just a business. It was a symbol of resilience, love, and community. August, Gianna, and Luca, united by unexpected circumstances, had found not only success and satisfaction in their joint efforts, but also a deep sense of purpose and belonging. Together, they looked forward to the future, ready to write the next chapters of their lives, anchored by the strength of their union and the unwavering support of the community they had helped transform. And so, with their work at the market continuing to shape the town, August, Gianna, and Luca knew that their story was just beginning.